everyone, and welcome to today's session. I'm really excited that you could join us today, and we have a really exciting and hopefully insightful session for you guys as well. So I'm really happy today to be joined with Chris, who is our product lead. So if you guys have any questions as we go through today's session, you can put them in the chat box, and Chris will answer your questions at the end. So the session should go for about 25 minutes, and then we should have a few minutes for the Q&A. So I think let's just get into our agenda for today. So we are going to be giving you a sneak peek of the VideoScribe for your browser roadmap. Then we're going to be diving into VideoScribe and showing you the template library. We're going to be doing a live demo of creating a video. I'm also going to go through all the features and functionality that we have in VideoScribe for your browser. And then we'll also have our Q&A. Okay, so now we're going to introduce ourselves to you guys who are your speakers today. So if you've joined our last couple of webinars, you should recognize me. So I'm Clemmy, and I'm the content marketing exec at VideoScribe. So I manage all our social channels, I write blogs for our website, and I also manage our email campaigns. And today I'm joined by Chris, who is going to introduce himself now.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris, so I'm the product lead here at VideoScribe. So I lead the product team and I'm essentially responsible for the product as a whole. My role consists of speaking with customers to understand what you're looking for to achieve with our product and why. So essentially, I'm looking to find out what problems need solving. That's problems with what the product currently does or things that it doesn't do. I then work with our design and development team to build solutions to those problems amongst a variety of other things.
Nice, thanks. So if we go to the next slide, or a couple of slides. So we're going to go into the VideoScribe roadmap now, and I'll pass back to Chris, who will take us through that.
Thanks, Clemmy. So yeah, we've got a couple of exciting things coming up that we're looking to release in kind of this part of the year. So first up is we have a new timeline. So that's currently in active development, and we're hoping to release that in probably the next 4 weeks. So this new timeline will not replace the existing one, but will be an addition. So you'll be able to switch or toggle between the existing timeline and the new one. The new timeline is time-based rather than only being sequence-based. So that means that elements will occupy space on the timeline based on how long they animate and pause for, rather than being all the same size, which is what they are now. There are a number of benefits to this. So by visualizing the elements within your project based on time as well as sequence, you'll be able to more easily manage the timings of when the elements animate. It will also allow you to more easily and more quickly edit the timing of the different animations, as we've added the ability to drag the animation stages to either increase or decrease their timings. We're also adding zoom controls as well, so you can zoom in on the timeline more granularly to fine-tune those timings, or you can actually zoom out to see a holistic view even of the elements within your project. That should make reordering of elements a lot easier. The final major benefit is easier syncing of elements with the audio that you have within your project. So this is something that currently is very challenging and time consuming. So we will be visualizing audio on the timeline in the form of audio waves. This will make it a lot easier and quicker to ensure that the elements appear, animate, and disappear at the exact moment you want. Secondly, we're also going to be looking at camera controls or adding camera controls. So at the moment, VideoScribe for your browser allows you to create a project using scenes with a fixed camera position. You can add scene transitions between each scene, which animate from one scene to another. This works really well for certain styles of video, but we know that the fixed camera position is a limitation. So we'll be adding camera controls so that the camera will no longer be fixed, which means that within each scene, you can zoom in or zoom out of any area of the canvas, as well as move around the canvas as you see fit. This will give a lot more flexibility and allow a lot more creative freedom to produce the style of video that you want. One benefit is being able to zoom in on a specific element or elements to emphasize a point or to focus the attention of your audience. You'll also be able to pan or move around the canvas. So if you have created a scene that you want to progressively uncover or even build for your audience to create an engaging narrative, you'll be able to do that. You'll also be able to circle back on previous areas of the canvas. So that means you won't need to duplicate previous elements or come up with workarounds that are time consuming or inflate the number of elements in your project, which can be actually quite cumbersome. And finally, we know that a lot of our customers like to use a single scene and at the end of the video zoom out to show everything that has previously been covered in the video, so acting a bit like a summary. That will now be possible by manipulating the zoom of the canvas, which will give the effect of an infinite canvas. It won't actually be infinite. There will still be edges to the canvas, but it will open up the ability to have a lot more space to work with on the canvas. And finally, audio enhancements. So audio is a really important aspect of a video for many reasons. It sets the tone of the video, it makes it engaging, it elicits an emotional response from the audience. So audio can really make or break a video. That's why it's really important we provide the tools to do audio well. So that's going to start with bringing in an audio library of royalty-free tracks that you can use within your video. It will remove the concerns around legalities of using tracks you found somewhere else online. It will also reduce the time you spend looking for tracks and evaluating whether they fit the visuals and the tone of your video. Additionally, we also want to make the actual recording and editing audio easier within the app. So at the moment, you can only have one background track and one voiceover track. We want to allow multiple audio tracks of either. So as an example, you can record sections of your voiceover rather than having to do it in one take, or use another tool to record multiple sections and then stitch them together. So hopefully this should save a lot of time and frustration. There are a number of other audio editing improvements we're going to make as well, such as splitting up your audio tracks or clipping them to remove dead time at the end. And really all of these enhancements are aimed at making the process of adding audio a lot quicker and easier, so you can focus on the more creative aspects of producing your video.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm really excited for these features, as I use VideoScribe for your browser most days for our social content. So I think these features will be really good. So I think now we're just going to get into the demo and tour of VideoScribe for your browser. So I think, Chris, if you just want to share the browser. So if you guys have never been a VideoScribe, this is the interface. So we're going to go to the template screen, and I'm going to give you guys a quick sort of overview of how the template library works and just a bit about the templates in case you've never used them before. So yeah, this is our template screen, and at the top, as you can see, we have a quick sort of finder tool. So this is just a really great way to find relevant templates quickly and easily. So for example, if you were an educator and you wanted to find our education templates, you would just click on the education button and it would show you all the templates we have that are relevant to your industry. Also, there are a few sorting options. So you can sort by the name of the template, and you can also sort by orientation. So for example, if I was creating an Instagram reel, I would want to sort for the vertical templates and find all the ones that are suitable for an Instagram reel. Also, as you scroll down the template screen, you'll see that you can preview templates, and they're also sorted into categories, the same as the top, so that you can easily see what you're looking for. So for example, we have education, business and marketing, and then at the top we also have our trending templates. So another note as well about our templates is that they are all fully customizable, so you can make them completely unique to your project and also match your branding. So you could add in your brand colors, you could add in your brand font, and you can also change up the imagery and the animations to suit your project as well. So yeah, they're just a good starting point if you're just getting used to VideoScribe and you want to make some videos fast and easy. But obviously some people want to create videos from a blank canvas, and Chris is now going to take us through how to create a video from scratch. So pass back to Chris.
Thanks, Clemmy. So yeah, I'm going to create a blank project. So if you're on the templates page, there's the new project button here. Alternatively, if you're on your My Projects page, then there's a couple of buttons there. So it makes it really easy for you to find where you need to be. So clicking new project, it asks you to put in a project name. You don't need to. If you don't, then we'll just give it a default untitled project. For this example, I'm going to just do a simple video for social media that's just Happy New Year releases. So just going to cover essentially what I've just been through with the new releases that we're hoping to bring in at the beginning of this year. So if I select kind of the portrait, as Kemi mentioned, we do have other canvas sizes which are specific for different platforms. So landscape is great for YouTube, and kind of square is great for Instagram and Facebook. So if I click create project, then this should just load up the editor screen and we have a blank canvas. So this is the canvas, and I'll just orient you guys a little bit around what we have here. So on the left-hand side, we have scenes, and scenes are a really great way to essentially break up your video into different sections. So if you have a complex topic or even just a longer video that you want to break up into kind of more meaningful chunks, then it's really easy to add new scenes. We've got buttons down here. If you have content that in your first scene that you want to duplicate, you can duplicate the scene and it makes things a little bit quicker. The kind of building blocks of a project or a video are elements. So we have three different types of elements. We have a text element, an image element, and a shape element. Text elements are text boxes. Images are images from our library, but you're also able to upload your own. And shapes are just a variety of three different shapes. Shapes are really good for kind of encompassing content. So for my video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have just a couple of rectangles, essentially. Depending on what element you have selected, you'll see on the right-hand side that there's the Edit tab. So this Edit tab is dependent based on what element you have selected. So there'll be different options available. As I've got a shape selected, what I can do is I can transform them, or I can update their appearance. Grey is a little bit boring, so I'm going to go with a bit of black and yellow. So we have that there. What I want to do is, as it's a Happy New Year video, I want to add an image. I know there is a Happy New Year image in our library. So if I select that and move it in here, up here in the action bar at the top, we have a grid. I want to kind of centralize this image and make it a little bit smaller. So if I have Happy New Year there, it makes it pretty easy to turn it on and off. Now, I also want to add a couple of fireworks. So what I can do is add these images straight from the library itself. So just to mention, on the library, we have about 11,000 hand-drawn images, and you can actually filter via different categories that we've categorized them, or you can search as well. So if I was to search by fireworks, we have tagged all of the images, so you can use those various search terms to find what you're looking for. Once you've added a couple of images and elements to your project, again, on the right-hand side, I've talked about the Edit tab, but there's also the Animation tab as well. So each element has three different stages of animation and a pause kind of section as well. The three animation stages are entrance, which is how it animates when it enters the canvas. There's emphasis, which is how it animates once it's on the canvas. And then there's an exit animation as well. So if you don't want the element to exist for the whole duration of your project, then you can actually have it disappear, essentially. And there are a variety of different types of animations. For the fireworks, what I want to do is I want to have it move in from the bottom. So here we have the type, and then I can select essentially the direction that it comes in from onto the canvas. So fireworks generally come from the ground. So if I set them to move in, move up. Now, once you've selected your animation type, there's a duration, and this is essentially how long it animates for. Fireworks move pretty quickly, so I only want it to animate for about 0.2 of a second. And because it's a firework, what I want it to do is I want it to disappear at the end. So if I just update these, so I'm just going to set an exit animation for both of them and set the pause timings as well. And once a firework explodes, obviously there's the actual colorful firework. So what I want to do is I want this to animate in just after the fireworks explode. So the fireworks are going to disappear, and then we'll see the actual colors. So down in the timeline, I can see that the order is a little bit out of what I want it to be. So that I can just kind of move them across. Incidentally, we do allow multi-selective elements as well. So if I want to update the animations or the timings for multiple elements, I can select both of them. We do have some keyboard shortcuts. So I'm on a Mac, so I used Command and click to individually select these. So then if I update the animation. I just want these to draw without the hand, and duration of 6 seconds is quite long. So again, if I put that at 0.5 seconds, and then the pause animation is good there. I also want to have a little bit of text. So as it's the new year, we'll just put a nice message saying, we hope you all had wonderful holidays and wish you all best for. Now this is quite big and the duration is quite long, so I'm going to reduce that down. And like I mentioned before, depending on what type of element you have selected, you're going to have different options in the edit tab. So with this being a text element, we allow different fonts. We have about 180 different Google fonts that you can use. Alternatively, you can add your own font as well. So you just need to upload font files, which can be kind of TTF, OTF, or .wof. And we support all of those. For this, I'm going to use a font called Caveat, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. There are a number of different ways that you can change the font size. So we have this drop down with some pre-selects. So I'm just going to go for about 75, but I want it to be a little bit bigger. So what else I can do is essentially just drag it out a little bit. We have some styling options here. So bold, italic, and then also some alignment options. So I'm just going to align that in the center. And if I add another text, what you'll notice is that the styling of this text element has retained the last text element styling that I edited. So that is a really nice thing that just kind of makes it a little bit easier so that you don't have to then update each kind of text file each time that you add it. It kind of remembers what you've done before. So that's a good start. I just want to kind of preview what I've done so far. So up here in the top right, we have various different preview options. So we have preview from element. So if I have an element selected, then I can essentially preview from that element within the timeline. We have preview from current scene, which will preview the whole scene that I've kind of created, or we can preview from the start. So for this, I'm just going to preview from scene, and we can see what that kind of looks like. So here, this is just animating through. It's probably a little bit long, so I'll probably want to update that. But for the purposes of this demo, I think it's okay. And then this is coming through. That was a really quick firework. I'll probably want to slow that down a little bit so you'll be able to see it, what's happening. If I just update that here, again, here we go. I'll put it to kind of like 0.5 seconds. We do have drag and drop on the scenes panel as well. So I actually want this to be my first scene, not my second scene. So if I do that and have a keyboard shortcut of delete, I want to retain kind of the shapes and the colors of this scene. So I'm going to duplicate this scene, and it duplicates everything. However, I don't want these elements down here. So if I click the first, and if I hold down Shift and then click the last one, it will multi-select everything in between. And then I can just delete with a keyboard shortcut. I don't want this to say exactly what I've just said on the previous scene. So I'm just going to update this to something along the lines of some exciting product improvements to look out for coming soon. And if I remove that, and then I'm just going to basically list what I've previously gone through. So for time-based timeline, and then I can copy paste that again with keyboard shortcuts. Incidentally, whilst I have mentioned that these are kind of the major things that we'll be bringing out, we will be bringing out sort of more minor improvements as well to the product as well. One of those things is going to be increasing the number of keyboard shortcuts that that you can use within the product as well. So I just want to add a couple of images to make this slide a little bit more engaging. So if I just move these and make them relevant a little bit to what the actual text is saying. And what I want to do is also get these to animate as well. So if I just add these in, and because I want them all to animate in the same way, I can just select those, and that's multi-selected all three. I don't want these to have an animation when they enter, but I do want them to be emphasized once they are on the canvas. So pulse is quite a nice one. And here again, you have the option to set the timing of the animation. 3.5 seconds is quite long, so I'll probably put it at again, probably half a second, and loops is just the number of times that it will emphasize. I only want it to emphasize or pulse once, so I'm going to set the loops as 1. So once I've done that, again, I can preview from current scene or preview the whole project. I'm going to preview the whole project just to see how it looks like. So just while this is kind of animating, I'll talk a little about, obviously I mentioned audio is a really important aspect. I'm not going to add audio to this project as we don't really have time, but you can add audio. Once this is finished animating, I'll show you how, but essentially there are 2 types of audio that you can add to your project. One is a background music track and one is a voiceover track. To do that, essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this preview because that is taking quite a long time, but I'll just cover how you can add audio. So there's the audio button up the top here, which will then open the edit panel in the right hand side, and you can see you've got the voiceover track and the background audio track here as well. So you can record audio and you can play your project as you record, so you can actually kind of see what's happening when, so that you can then kind of time your audio appropriately, or you can upload your audio as well. Now, this isn't kind of a finished project, but I'm conscious about time, so I'm going to move on to discussing what sharing options we have. So once you've got your project into a good place, we offer kind of 2 types of sharing, essentially. One is to create a preview link. So you click on the create preview link, and this creates a unique link for your project, which you can then copy. This is great if you are looking for feedback or a bit of improvements or suggestions from maybe a colleague or a boss or a friend, something like that. It's really easy and quick. Just to note is that you'll only have the only people that can actually see this video if they have the link itself. So it's not discoverable via Google or anything like that. So there is privacy there and it is hidden. However, once you've kind of got that feedback and you're really happy with it and you're ready to download it, you can click on download as video or GIF. So they're the 2 options we allow. We've got the MP4, which is a 1080p, so it's high definition, and then there's GIF, which is limited to 15 seconds of your project. Once you've kind of selected which one you'd like, you click start download, and then you're presented with a modal that basically just gives you the status of your render and your download. So essentially at the moment, this is just rendering on the back end. If you have some other things that you want to do, you want to maybe make some edits, you can actually cancel it. If you want to go off and do another project or something like that, you can actually hide this window and it will render in the background. And then as long as you have your VideoScribe tab open, it will then download automatically. Incidentally, with regards to our rendering and downloading, just before Christmas, we released some really great updates to our renderer. So previously, a 40-second video such as this might take 4 or 5 minutes to render and then download. Now, as you can see, it's taken a matter of seconds. So there's some really good improvements we've got there. That was quite a whirlwind tour there, Clemmy, but I think I managed to cover most things, kind of, for the building blocks of how to create a project anyway.
Yeah, that was great, thank you. And hopefully everyone that's watching, hopefully that was really insightful for you. So I think if we go back to our PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So as a thank you to everyone for joining us today, we have a discount code for you guys. So if you use webinar25 at checkout, you can get 25% off our annual plans. And if you wanted to get our free trial, which is 7 days, or buy a plan, you can go to VideoScribe.co. And also, if you have questions that we don't get around to answering in our Q&A, or just anything, requests or anything like that, just email us at marketing@sparkle.com. So yeah, now it's time to get into our Q&A session, and I can see a few questions. So I'm also going to be able to be in the chat while Chris is answering. So if any questions we don't get around to, I'll try and reply in the chat, and also I will try and email if we don't get around to all of them. But I can see a question here, which is, can I upload my own brand logo into VideoScribe?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, you can upload any kind of image essentially. So that's a PNG, a JPEG, or an SVG. SVG images are of better quality because as you kind of make them bigger, they do scale and retain that resolution quality. A good thing with logos is if you actually want your logo to essentially appear from the start of your project all the way through to the end of it, what you can do is there's a nice little trick is if you add that to every scene that you have and make sure that that is the first element of your scene. And then if you go over to the animation types, and if you set the animation to none, that essentially means that there's no animation time. So it will be present from the first scene. And then as long as you don't give an exit animation to it, then it will stay there for the duration of your project. So that's a really nice way of making sure that you have your logo present throughout your video.
Nice, thank you. And someone has said that they are a desktop user at the moment, and they like to look at browser, but they would just like to know sort of the key differences between the browser and the desktop.
Yeah, sure. So I guess in terms of the hardware side of things, obviously the desktop is a downloadable, and the browser is on the browser version. So the key difference there is if you're on the desktop, you're limited to the device that you can use that on. Whereas the benefits, obviously, of the browser is that you can access it anywhere from any device. In terms of the actual functionality, so it's actually two of the key things that we're actually going to be building for the browser that are currently the two key differences. So where the browser has the number of different scenes and that fixed camera position, the desktop essentially is one scene that has no borders to the canvas, so it's an infinite canvas, and that's the key difference really, is that with the desktop you have one scene and you can zoom in, zoom out, pan around and create very much a whiteboard focused video, whereas with the browser you have that sense of fixed scenes. So it's different in the types of or the style of video that you can create. However, there will be parity with that once we obviously bring out the camera controls in browser. Another key difference is the audio library. So the desktop currently has an audio library of royalty-free tracks that you can use, and it's built into that. And the browser doesn't at the moment. So, I mentioned that we want to be adding that audio library to the browser. So again, that will, close the differences between them. There are some other minor differences. One of them, which may not be minor, depends how you look at it, is the different animation types as well. So the desktop only has an entrance animation and a kind of a transition animation called morph, whereas the browser obviously has the entrance, the emphasis, and the exit animations, but it doesn't have morph. And lastly, the desktop has different text animations, whereas the browser doesn't have those same text animations. So there's a few little differences at the moment.
Cool. And someone else has asked if we have a brief or like an ETA for when the camera controls would be available in the browser.
Good question. So at the moment, like I mentioned, we are developing the timeline, and that should be out the end of January, the beginning of February, depending on testing. We want to make sure it works and it isn't full of bugs. But then after that, we'll be starting work on the camera controls. We've done the designs, and I've actually worked with some of our customers to kind of ensure that it's going to work how you expect it to work, and it's easy to use and kind of makes sense. So we're in a really good position with that, but we haven't actually started development on it. I don't know how long it's going to take to develop. I haven't sat down with the team and worked that out yet. We'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks. But I would like to think that it will be probably towards the end of this quarter, which would kind of be the end of March, beginning of April. But don't quote me on that. Things can change when it comes to development schedule. So yeah, but I'm hoping this side of the year, basically.
And I think we just have time for one last question, which is, so with the preview links that you showed, if I send it to someone, do they have to log into VideoScribe, or can they view it, without being logged in?
No, you don't need to log in. So it's a public link. So essentially anyone with the link can view it. You don't need to be logged in to view it at all.
Cool. Okay, well, that's all we have time for. But if there are any questions that we didn't get round to, we will send you an email with the response. So thank you so much, everyone who's joined us today, and especially if you've stayed till now. Don't forget to redeem your discount code as well if you wanted to get VideoScribe for your browser for 25% off. And thank you, Chris, for joining me today. That's been a really insightful session, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, Clemmy.